galaxy is vast. Much lurks in the depths of the dark between the stars. It can be difficult for simple spacers to explain. Phenomena that defies reasons. Creatures that would make even the toughest spacer squirm. After all, the galaxy is a big place. It can be full of wonder and horror. And in the vastness of space, nobody can hear you scream.
You are listening to the Star Lores Podcast.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Are you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerve herder?
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Anxiety.
You can't hide. Come here. You can't hide from me.
The Anzati, singular Anzat, were a species whispered about across the galaxy. Near human in appearance, yet anything but. From the outside, they could pass unnoticed amongst countless worlds, their faces smooth and unremarkable. But hidden beneath the skin, coiled like serpents waiting to strike, were their true instruments of horror. Two tentacle-like proboscises that unfurled from discreet seams beside the nose. With these, the Anzati fed, drawing sustenance not from the flesh, but from the very essence of their victims' minds. Long-lived beyond reckoning, the Anzati possessed a natural telepathy that only deepened with age. The oldest among them could slip into another's thoughts as easily as stepping through an open door, bending will and perception until their prey offered themselves willingly. Jedi who survived such encounters compared it to the Force, but colder, devoid of purpose, driven only by hunger. Jedi Master Zhao once claimed that what the Anzati drank, the so-called, quote, soup, was more than thought or memory. It was the Force itself. And for those Anzati bold or depraved enough to consume the essence of another Force-sensitive, the result was intoxicating. Their own connection to the Force grew stronger, darker, and infinitely more dangerous. The Anzati were outwardly human, gray-skinned, with bulbous noses and flared nostrils, but there was something unsettling about their stillness, as if life itself moved differently through them. Their bodies held no pulse, no warmth. Even advanced scanners struggled to make sense of their physiology. Without heartbeat or heat, they should not have lived, and yet they did, for centuries beyond count. The youngest among them had already seen ages pass. The eldest were ancient beyond measure, wandering the stars since before the Republic's first words were spoken. Sustained by the essence they drew from others, the Anzati defied time itself. Hunger gnawed at them if they went too long without feeding, but starvation brought no decay, only a deepening of their thirst for the soup. Their predatory design was as elegant as it was horrifying. Speed, grace, and reflexes far surpassed human limits, while their senses could detect the flicker of a powerful life force across a crowded street. Strength they possessed too, though it was not brute force that made them deadly. It was the perfect harmony of body and mind, each tuned for the hunt. When they fed, the illusion of humanity vanished. From the hidden pockets in their cheeks uncoiled the two proboscises, pale, sinuous tendrils that sought the connection between mind and spirit. The act itself was silent, intimate, and grotesque, a communion that left only emptiness behind. Among most humanoids, that meant the skull and the brain. With eerie precision, the Anzat would insert the tendrils through the nostrils or temples, drawing the victim close as the feeding began. The proboscises seemed almost alive of their own accord, finding the source of the life essence and drinking deeply. A victim might struggle, but by then it was already too late. The feeding could not be rushed, and so the Anzat held its prey close, an embrace of death. It was this grotesque ritual that earned them the crude moniker of, quote, snot vampires. The Anzati spoke of their sustenance with reverence. Soup, luck, and the sea of memory. These were not simply fluids or energy, but the distilled spirit of a living mind. To them, the soup was the essence of being, the personality, the strength, the presence of a creature. Those with rich inner lives, leaders, artists, warriors, and dreamers, tasted best. The stronger the presence, the more intoxicating the meal. Some Anzati prolonged the experience, feeding slowly over several sessions, savoring terror as much as essence itself. The relationship between luck and the Force was murky. Jedi Masters described the soup as a reflection of the Force, while the Anzati dismissed such ideas as superstition. To them, the Force was merely one of many theories younger species invented to name the unknowable. Weak minds were thin fare. To survive in an ordinary beings, an Anzat would need to feed many times a day, an act that left carnage in its wake. Worlds without sentient life were death sentences. To live as an Anzat was to live in servitude to appetite. The craving for soup consumed every thought, every breath. Some likened it to addiction, an ache that sharpened with age until it ruled every aspect of existence. Many viewed other sentient species as livestock, though a few, through will or self-loathing, tried to resist the hunger for years at a time. Those who did often became detached, haunted, and half-mad. The eldest were the most dangerous, and the most tragic. As centuries passed, the hunger deepened into obsession, hollowing their minds until only instinct remained. Some claimed the silent voices that shimmered across the night sky of Anzat, the luminous bands of gas said to hold the souls of the dead, were the whispers of ancestors calling them home. To the ancients, this was proof that to feed was divine, that through the act they maintained eternal youth and vigor. Reproduction was rare and ritualized. Young Anzati reached maturity around their 100th year, at which point they left their homeworld to wander the stars, nameless until they earned one through the hunt. They could live for millennia. Despite their reputation as monsters, not all Anzati were without refinement. Many became connoisseurs of art, philosophy, and culture. With lifespans that dwarfed civilizations, they had centuries to master their crafts, though few bothered. For them, perfection was meaningless, when every rival artist would be dust before their next work was begun. What they did value were the arts of stealth, patience, and death. The skills of the hunter were the only inheritance that mattered. It was said that an Anzat could walk through a crowded city unseen and unnoticed until the moment their prey was already in their grasp. Some became assassins for hire, blending into the galaxy's underworld. Their anonymity was their weapon. Until they struck, they were indistinguishable from anyone else. On rare occasions, necessity or greed drew them together in temporary guilds, but such unions seldom lasted. Sooner or later, the strongest would feed on the others. Legends of the Anzati appeared on countless worlds, older than written history. Some said they were predated humanity itself. Others claimed they evolved alongside it, hidden in shadow until hyperspace travel brought their world into reach. Those few who sought out the homeworld of the Anzat often vanished without a trace, swallowed by the same silence that had kept the species a mystery for eons. Among the darkest tales whispered of the species are those of the feral Anzati, creatures that were once hunters now reduced to beasts. These wretches first appeared among those drawn to the legend of Wolf Karko, the Anzat Jedi who fell to the dark side. Drawn to Kefex by reverence or instinct, they gathered around his stasis prison like moths to a dying flame, but the dreamer did not inspire them, he drained them. Over decades, perhaps centuries, Karko siphoned their vitality, twisting them into something less than sentient and far more monstrous. The feral ones lost the grace and subtlety of their kin. Their flesh grew pale and stretched tight over bone. Their eyes burned red with the madness of endless hunger. Their mouths split into lipless maws, lined with fangs, and their once hidden probosces writhed openly. Some even developed grotesque new appendages, ropey strands of webbing that could lash from their torsos to snare prey, a hideous mockery of the silent elegance of the Anzati were once known for. They retained fragments of speech, the remnants of what they had been, single words, broken phrases, echoes of thought that no longer belonged to rational minds. Yet the hunger remained undiminished and raw. The ferals prowled the wastes of Kifex, preying upon prisoners and guards alike, their feeding frenzies staining the planet's soil with the memory and blood. To ordinary Anzati, the ferals are both horror and warning, a glimpse of what awaited those who lost control of their hunger. Some claimed the feral state was not caused by Karako's influence alone, but by the force itself rejecting the abominations they had become. Whether curse or consequence, the feral stood as living proof that even immortality had a cost. The Jedi who confronted Karko described his followers as nightmares, swift, cunning, but stripped of reason, driven only by the instinct to feed. When Karko was finally destroyed, the feral Anzati scattered into legend once more. Whether they perished on Kifex or fled into the void is unknown, but in dark corners of the galaxy, there are still rumors of things that hunt like men, but feed like monsters.
Given.
0, 11, 24, 11, 1, 7, 19, 20, 10, 14, 2, 3, 19, 0, 8, 11, 22, 21, 5, 17.
The Given looked like something halfway between the living and the dead. Humanoid skeletons wrapped in hard, pale white skin that gleamed like polished bone. Their deep, hollow eyes seemed to drink in all light, black wells that gave no hint of emotion. Long arms and legs jutted out from their bodies at stiff, deliberate angles. And when they moved, it was with an eerie precision. Some who'd seen them said they walked like Twi'lek string puppets, graceful but unsettlingly mechanical. Their bodies were thin and might appear as frail, though this would be misleading, their slender forms standing average human heights ranging between 5'5" and 6'5". They had a typical lifespan of 80 standard years. Their strange appearance was more than cosmetic. Life on Yagdul, a world ruled by a merciless pull of its many moons, had shaped them into survivors. The planet's tidal chaos sent constant atmospheric shocks across the surface, forcing the Given to evolve exoskeletons that could seal tight against the vacuum and temperature swings. With every external orifice capable of closing completely, a Given could survive a full standard day in the void. This gift came at a cost. They burned through energy at an alarming rate, consuming nearly 3 times as much food as a human of similar size. Perhaps that's why the exposed skin in other species disturbed them so deeply. Vulnerability was not just discomfort, it was dangerous. The Given's world wasn't ruled by kings or generals, but by mathematicians. Their society, known as a mathematocracy, was governed by the body calculus, an assembly of the greatest mathematical minds on Yagdul. Equations were tools and scripture alike. Every political contest, every shift in leadership, was decided not by votes or violence, but by contest of pure intellect. Complex, multidimensional, differentials that could span hours or days. To the Given, mathematics was more than logic. It was survival. It had to be, on a world whose seas and skies moved according to chaos itself. Their shipwrights were legends, designers of elegant, razor-edged vessels that slipped through the stars, rendered as manifestations of mathematics itself. Other species often found these ships baffling. No pressurization systems, no navicomputers. The Given needed neither. They breathed vacuum and plotted hyperspace routes in their heads, their minds running calculations faster than most computers could manage. In 22 BBY, on the eve of the Clone Wars, the body calculus turned its collective intellect toward the stars and saw only darkness ahead. Their predictive equations painted a future in which both Galactic Republic and their own world would fall to ruin, acting not from emotion, but from logic. Yagdul seceded, aligning itself with the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The Given lent their formidable intellect to the Confederacy, designing and constructing the sleek Wavecrest-class frigates. Though the war scarred their industries, they rebuilt swiftly. By the era of the Yuuzhan Vong invasion, Given engineers once again produced some of the most advanced ships in the galaxy, when the Vong came for Yagdul, but their invasion was repelled with the help of the Jedi. Afterward, any diplomat hoping to deal with the Given quickly learned a hard truth. Before you could negotiate with them, you had to understand their numbers. Many ambassadors spent months studying advanced mathematics just to hold a conversation without embarrassment. The Given respected kindred spirits in craft and intellect, the verb behind the Diros, but had little patience for those who built by instinct or emotion, such as the Mon Calamari. Their tolerance for other species was often thin. Most aliens failed the simplest of social courtesies, unable to solve even the quadratic equations that began every polite exchange. To the Given, that wasn't just ignorance, it was rudeness. Only a few, like the mighty Duenaguin, earned their respect.
Shistavinin.
The Shistavinin, often whispered about as wolfmen by those who had only glimpsed their kind, were a species that seemed carved from the wild itself. Native to the Uvena Prime in the Uvena system, they bore the unmistakable stamp of both evolution and artifice. Their creators, whether gods, nature, or a long-forgotten genetic engineer, had shaped them into perfect hunters. Muzzles lined with daggered teeth, sharp claws that could rend steel mesh, and long, tufted ears that pivoted at the faintest sound marked their silhouette. Their eyes glowed in shades of gold, amber, or predatory green, luminescent mirrors of their instincts. In the half-light, a Shistavinin could lope across a plain for hours, alternating between 2 and 4 limbs tirelessly. They could smell fear in the air, hear a whispered lie through a sealed door, and see through the veil of night as though it were midday. But their strengths came with fragility. Too much light, too much noise, and their senses turned against them, overwhelmed by their own precision. They stood an average about 1.8 meters, or roughly 5'9", and weighed around 60 kilograms, with gray to brown skin, fur in various shades of brown, and some among them bore rare variations, such as Kayet Shrovel, whose pale fur and crimson eyes told of either mutation or imperial meddling. They were known for their enhanced senses, exceptional speed and strength, and an average lifespan of about 96 years. They were isolationist by nature and practiced acting as the gatekeepers of their system, ensuring the ever uninhabited world within the Uvena cluster was claimed and closed to outsiders. Their laws bent sharply inward, their trade policies favoring only their own, and their distrust of strangers ran bone deep. Uvena Prime gleamed with modernity in some regions, yet in others the old ways endured. Communities where technology bowed to instinct and tradition, where the moon's call still mattered more than any HoloNet broadcast. A few, however, felt the pull of the stars. They became wanderers of the hyperlanes, loners and scouts, mercenaries and bounty hunters, and some even Jedi. Even then, Shistavanen rarely traveled in the company of other species. They trusted only their own kind, or no one at all. Among outsiders, their piercing eyes and predatory bearing drew unease. To share a cantina with a Shistavanen was to feel watched by something that still remembered what it meant to hunt for survival. The albino Shistavanen, like Kayat Shvol, faced an even harsher fate, treated as anomalies, sometimes as omens, always as other, even among their own kind. During the age of Emperor Palpatine, when xenophobia gripped the Empire, the Shistavanen somehow thrived on the margins. The same traits that made them distrusted by civilians, predatory instinct, tireless endurance, and a nose for pursuit, made them invaluable to Imperial agents. Shistavanen scouts hunted fugitives, rebels, and anyone the Emperor's hand pointed toward, their loyalty bought not by ideology, but by instinct and contract. Even before the rise of the Empire, Shistavanen had carved places for themselves in galactic history. Volvif Mon, a Jedi Master of lupine grace and formidable power, fought bravely during the Clone Wars. Others took darker paths, such as Severian, who served the Empire as a bounty hunter before he met an untimely fate. In the turbulent years of the Galactic Civil War, Black Sivrak, once an Imperial scout, defected to the Rebel Alliance, a rare turn for his kind, and fought for freedom among strangers who feared his silhouette. Riv Shiel followed a similar path, his keen senses serving him well as a rogue squadron pilot. Later, in the age of the New Republic, the species found its image fractured once more. Hovrak rose to become an adjutant advisor within the Specious Diversity Alliance, while Kayat Shrovel, pale as moonlight and twice as fierce, flew with Rock Squadron, mercenaries bound to Leonia Taveria's Invidious. The galaxy never truly understood the Shistavanen. To most, they were shadows, creatures of fang and instinct, prowling at the edges of civilization. Yet beneath that feral exterior lay a culture bound by loyalty, secrecy, and an unshakable pride in their origins. They were predators, yes, but predators with purpose, the last echoes of an ancient design, guarding their bloodlines from dilution and their worlds from intrusion.
Devaronians.
Who dare summon me here and question my loyalty? The charges against me are false!
The Devaronians were a horned bipedal mammalian species native to the lush, river-veined world of Devaron, a planet of low mountains and deep valleys in the colony's region. They were believed to have descended from hardy mountain primates, their horns originally a mutation that proved invaluable in warding off the great predatory birds that once ruled Devaron skies. Standing on an average around 1.6 meters, Devaronians possessed dense musculature that made them heavier and more resilient than their appearance suggested. Their skin ranged in hue from deep crimson to pink, brown, or even pale white, while eyes gleamed in tones of yellow or brown. Males were bald, displaying their curved horns proudly, while females were covered in soft fur, shades of brown, white, or black, and bore only faint horn spots upon their foreheads. Internally, the species was as remarkable as their appearance. Their silver-based blood, thick and black when exposed to air, coursed through a dual liver filtration system that made them nearly immune to most toxins. This adaptation kept their bodies free of disease and impurity, though it also gave rise to a dangerous indulgence, sulfur inhalation. On Deveron, sulfur served as both stimulant and vice, flooding the bloodstream with energy, but straining their organs if used too long. The Deveronians were a people of extremes, of passion, contrast, and divergence. The most striking difference between the sexes was not simply in form, but in spirit. Males were bold and impulsive, driven by wanderlust and burned as hot. They were the explorers, the scouts, the smugglers, the restless souls who could never remain in one place for long. Their horns were their pride, polished and groomed meticulously, symbols of virility and power. Other species often found them unnerving, likening them to the demons of ancient myths. Females, in contrast, were calm, pragmatic, and dominant within Deveronian society. They governed, maintained the homeworld, and oversaw the raising of young. Their power was subtle but absolute. The male's compulsion to roam was seen as both a gift and a curse, a balance that allowed the species to flourish beyond Deveron, while maintaining a strong matriarchal structure at home. The planet had strict capital punishment and an official matriarchal government. Normally, Deveronians would have razor-sharp teeth, an artifact of their carnivorous diet. However, in primitive times, rare males were born with two sets of teeth, an inner row of sharp predatory incisors and an outer set of broader retractable molars. Such individuals were prized as scouts, able to survive on both meat and vegetation during long treks through Deveron's wild terrain. Males also possessed unusually long tongues, though whether females shared this trait remains a matter of speculation, and some amusement in spacer folklore. Deveronian society was one of ritual, instinct, and duality. Their mating season, known as cohibril, was one of few times the males and females spent expended periods together. During Oshmar, the ceremonial midday meal, both genders shared food and stories, a tradition that persisted even among those who lived far from their homeworlds. The Deveronians were also among the first spacefaring species, developing the tumble hyperdrive around 27,000 BBY, an innovation that marked them as pioneers of interstellar travel. Their restless males soon spread across the galaxy, becoming a familiar sight in spaceports and cantinas, from the core worlds to the outer rim. Most sent credits home to support their families, but few ever returned. The females of Deveron accepted this arrangement with quiet satisfaction, considering it the natural order. The males roamed and females ruled. Force sensitivity was relatively common among the Deveronians, though no great Force tradition arose among them. The Jedi Order, recognizing their potential, established the Edit Temple on Deveron to train Force-sensitive children. Predictably, females made up the majority of its initiates, more disciplined and patient than their wandering male counterparts. The history of Deveron is one of moral complexity and contradiction. During the rise of the Empire, Kardu Sa'amalak, a Deveronian army captain, ordered the bombardment of Montelian Serat, slaughtering rebels and civilians alike. Condemned by his own people, he fled into hiding under the name Labria, eventually resurfacing in the shadowed corners of Mos Eisley Cantina, where he watched the birth of the rebellion from afar. Not all Deveronians were so infamous, however. The cunning Vilmar Grark made his name as smuggler and con artist during the final days of the Republic, while Cap Dendo rose through the ranks of the Rebel Alliance to become a general in the New Republic. Still, few Deveronians joined the rebellion outright. Their culture favored independence over ideology, and most preferred the open sky of a freighter deck to the rigid hierarchies of any government, imperial or otherwise. Together, Deveronian males and females formed a species of contrasts, devilish yet disciplined, savage yet civilized. The galaxy might have called them demons, but to the Deveronians, they were simply explorers of the stars and keepers of home.
Welcome aboard the Millennial Falcon. This is Christian.
And this is Jordan.
We're on the beautiful world of Deveron. Would be a paradise world if it wasn't inhabited by demons. Not actually. They just look like demons from human folklore.
Yeah. Shut up, you bigot. But before we get into our passive bigotry, let's talk about some housekeeping. First of all, we want to thank all our wonderful patrons, the people who support the show. Your support helps us keep the lights on. If you want to support the show for $3 USDs a month, you can jump onto Patreon and you get access to all the bonus episodes, and that's patreon.com/starlores.
Please support the show. I've picked up a terrible Sabac addiction, and I owe a lot of bad people a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can't support monetarily, absolutely not a problem. Don't forget to rate and review the show. That helps us as well. If you don't want to support with the creds, okay. But yeah, if you rate and review the show, that definitely helps get our podcast into more ears, and that's good. So that's
and our voices into more minds.
Yeah. So that's absolutely an excellent way to help us out. And other than that, make sure to reach out to us. We are on Facebook, Instagram, X, and we also have a Discord, and all those links will be in the description. But reach out to us, come have a chat in the Discord group. Yeah, from there, Christian,
get into it.
Yeah.
Spooky species. Yeah, with the release of this episode will be close to the Halloween season. We kind of want to keep these episodes somewhat evergreen, but this seemed like a good opportunity to group a couple of species together with some, might not have enough information on them individually for a full episode, but enough commonalities between them to group them together and just cover a few different species.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this in like 6 months or 5 years from now, just remember we recorded this around Halloween. Yeah.
Yes. And that is kind of the vibe we're going for.
2025,
yes. Yeah, the obvious comparisons of some of our species, the Enzati are obviously space vampires.
Yep.
The Shistavanin are obviously werewolves. Well, I'm hesitant to say werewolf because they don't turn into anything else, but they do have the wolf form of what you would typically find as a werewolf.
Right.
But they're always like that. They don't change back and forth.
Yeah.
The Given are interesting because they kind of have the appearance of a skeleton.
Yeah, they're almost like a ghoul of some kind.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
But again, not
maybe even ghostly.
Yeah, I'm going to get into the details
Okay.
on the Given and what they look like specifically here.
Okay.
And the Deveronians obviously look like demons or devils of the red-skinned, horned variety.
Yeah.
A lot of which comes from like a lot of medieval folklore.
Yeah.
So
not like totally unlike the Zabrak.
Yeah, except the Deveronians have like two dominant horns.
Yeah.
Like very typical, like a devil look. Whereas the Zabraks have multiple little horns. The whole thing with the Zabraks is they came about with the design philosophy of Darth Maul. But typical Zabraks don't have that black and red coloring that Darth Maul has. Yeah. And Darth Maul's design was explicitly, I believe, stated to invoke like a devilish or demonic kind of visage.
Yeah.
Which obviously got picked up on and carried out through the whole species. But the Zabraks generally don't necessarily have the bright red tattoos and the dark black tattoos that really and the red eyes that really sell Darth Maul's demonic look.
I feel like Knights of the Old Republic to try to sanitize the Zabrak image with the
Bao-Dur.
with Bao-Dur. The intro, a calm, gentle, light skin tone.
Well, not just that. There were a couple of Jedi that were also came out at the same time as Darth Maul, which is interesting. That were also Zabraks, but they feature a lot in the background, so you're not really noticeable. Yeah. And I don't know if that was done intentionally or they just recycled the design because it was cool enough. Ethkoth and I forget who the other one is, but there's two prominent Jedi who also came out at the same time. So I don't think Darth Maul obviously has the most remarkable image of that.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about Zabraks. No. I did debate putting Zabraks in this episode, but I feel like Zabraks actually could go on their own episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and there's a lot more depth to them.
Suffice it to say, I did get Zabrak-ish vibes from the Deveronians.
Yeah.
But
satanic.
Yeah.
Devilish.
But it's just like the skin tone and the horns, right? Like that's kind of... But they do have their own distinct look as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason I picked 3 of these 4, however, so yes, the Anzadi kind of aside, the Shivistan, the Deveronian, and the Given all first appear in the Cantina scene of A New Hope. And that's kind of where they made their debut. 2 of those costumes were straight up rip off. Like they grabbed a devil costume. They were looking. The costume department ran out of like unique alien designs. They're like, what else can we just slap together and throw in here?
Yeah, I mean the Deveronian does look far more typical devil than like we were saying about the Zabraks. It is more the atypical devil that you would have seen in like a 70s movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Cloven hooves. Although Zabraks don't have cloven hooves, but that image of it. It's really hard in audio format to describe things I'm finding. And then the Shavastin, are very obviously like a 1960s werewolf costume that they slapped on a guy too. The Given are a little more unique. They also make their first appearance in that same Cantina scene. However, for them, their design was created as an alien. However, it was a very obviously influenced by the human skeletal form. They have like these sunken black eyes and like sunken feature, like nose feature and mouth feature. And what I always kind of pictured is it very much looks like the Scream mask from the Scream franchise. But the Scream franchise didn't come out till much later. And the Scream mask was itself influenced by another Halloween mask that was manufactured privately by a company. But that also didn't come out till later. And I had always assumed, like, where is the influence of this Given face? But yeah, apparently it's just a unique design, and it's kind of like, and the Scream mask also has some, I believe, influence from the Scream painting. But again, like, I think this is a unique situation where 2 designs kind of merge together independently, and they kind of look subtly like each other. But I don't think there was a direct influence between the Given and Scream, but they do look very similar if you get a side by side. There
is what appears to be a Given in that animated show Star Wars Droids. It's in one like very quick shot. It's like on the planet and there's a bunch of aliens. But if you look up on the screenshot online, just look up Given, and that is spelled, for those who are listening, Givin. If you look up a Given, it does appear to be that or close to that with the weird sunken eyes, but also it's kind of unclear in some of those old animated shows exactly
what things are supposed to be. Yeah.
But there is debate because no one has confirmed, none of like the writers or anything has ever confirmed that is what that species is. So.
Right.
And it's kind of a weird shot. So you just have to look at it yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes some artistic license has to be given.
Yeah. You guys, folks can tell us if it was really
back and watch it, yeah.
A Given or not.
Can you spot the Given in any scene?
I think it is. I think because it was in the original Cantina scene. I think that.
Yeah, you'd think that the artist would have.
Yeah, that's what they're inspired by.
Yeah. certainly. Yeah, but overall, like, kind of why these species we kind of clustered together to talk about today.
Yeah. And when else are we ever going to talk about them? So
When else do you get an excuse to talk about the given?
yeah.
I really do like their math-based culture.
Oh yeah, that's
I think
like
it's pretty
they're
unique.
crazy. Yeah, that is a unique, kind of cool aspect about them. Yeah, it is funny. I was kind of thinking though about it. Would they not be like the most sophisticated and advanced civilization in the galaxy with that kind of thinking? I don't know.
They would definitely be up there. My counters would be, one, are there people that are even better at math? And two, you also have magic in Star Wars.
Yeah,
magic
sure.
oftentimes trumps technology.
Yeah, there's also something to be said about like the evolutionary pressures on different species that what it sort of biases them towards can be different, right? They may not be as biased towards expansion or something
Right.
like that.
And that was the other thing I was going to say too, is even the way their culture operates is like, do they care about these things or these things more?
Yeah.
Like, does math dictate to them like it's actually not worth conquering the galaxy? Maybe just don't. And
exactly.
focus your efforts on these things.
Just find like an equilibrium where you live and
leave
that's
it at
good
that.
enough.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always interesting when you have a species that has values that are completely different than what a human mind can understand, right? That's very hard to get around.
Yeah, and that's like my human understanding of like, well, why wouldn't they just be like, kicking ass and taking names kind of thing, like just
conquering,
conquering the whole galaxy.
Yeah, like they may not value the idea of conquest.
They don't even need nav computers to fly their ships.
Yeah, they just do the math in their head.
They do it all in their head. Like that is unbelievably advanced calculations. That is like hard for us to even. That's like an AI supercomputer in your head, But yeah,
and it could come with other limitations too, right? Like the trade-offs might not be there either.
Exactly.
So even though if you're hyper specialized in one category, doesn't mean it bodes well for survival in other situations, especially when you encounter species where rocks are good enough as weapons. That does kind of remind me a little bit of, I think, way back when we talked about Kaminoans as well. Just from a human standpoint, it's hard to understand. Kaminoans are described as being like almost sociopathic in their lack of empathy and their coldness. But sociopathy is like a divergent trait in humans because humans are expected to live up to certain baselines.
Yeah.
Whereas if your whole species doesn't exhibit certain things, that's just normal for them. That wouldn't be out of the norm, which is what often these behaviors are categorized as because they're abnormal in humans, right?
Right.
So, yeah, again, it goes back to like, you can't even think like a human when you're kind of describing certain alien species.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that actually goes too for the Anzati, who are like exceptionally long lived. You would think, they'd create some high society and culture, but they're just so driven by hunger that like it kind of trumps everything else. Yeah, they engage with art, if they get bored, or they engage in high culture as like a side hobby, but always their main focus is feeding. And that is the driving force behind them. So again, that's another kind of like getting behind, humans, food is a necessity. But we can advance beyond like just basic need to feed, right? Like we build cultures and civilizations and societies outside of just food. Now, people will argue, like in Maslow's hierarchy, I do think that model is flawed, and you might call me crazy for saying that, but a lot of academics actually do also.
I've
think
read this.
Flawed.
Yeah, I've read this as well.
It's always been taken as like fact because you get taught it in like high school.
That's right. Yeah.
But
I mean, it's sort of like when you look at just the very basic idea, it feels sort of intuitively right.
Yeah, and it might be to some extent.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's an ironclad
for sure
theory.
Yeah, I think there are things. I think definitely like the first like steps on the hierarchy. It's like your very basic needs. That's sort of
survival needs.
Yeah, the survival needs are kind of obvious, but I think once you get up a little more, it kind of gets a little confusing.
Yeah, but even then, like,
if that's
I think there's an argument to be made again with trade-offs. Like, you will encounter people in situations where they might sacrifice survival needs for something that doesn't make sense. Yet they do it anyways, because humans are also irrational in a lot of cases too.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not like an ironclad thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's always exceptions.
Yeah.
I agree. It is sort of, I don't think it's a terrible rubric, but yeah, you kind of.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold to it so tightly as to
exactly.
be like indisputable or unchallengeable.
Yeah.
Also, just staying on the topic of the Anzati, it's also not super clear in some of the sources of Legends material about what it is that the Anzati are feeding on. So, in our mythology, vampires suck your blood, and it's kind of like that idea of like sucking your essence or life force from you. Oftentimes in especially like medieval philosophy, like blood was like life energy, and even ancient thought as well. But for the Anzati, it's literally like their tendrils go up your nose or in your ears or through your temples and extract what they call as soup or memory.
This is very strange and novel.
Yeah.
I feel in the Star Wars
Yeah,
universe.
absolutely. Yeah. And it feels like, I remember reading the comic books where these aliens are featured. It was in the Republic the Republic series, I believe. And they always described it as like, they called it soup or memory and the sea of memory and things like that. But it kind of gets wishy-washy about, okay, is this like force energy that they're consuming? Is this like something else?
Yeah.
Is it just like your memories and your personality? They kind of get murky with it. I think I don't know that the text backs me up in saying this, but I feel like all that stuff could be attributed to somehow being linked to the Force is the easiest answer. But there's this attempt to like make it distinguished from it as well.
Yeah.
So
it's very odd. It feels to me like another Star Wars writer going off the reservation a little bit.
Yeah, and then other authors trying to bring him back. Yeah. Certainly feels like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very cool concept nonetheless. They could have just done space vampires and they just suck blood.
Yeah.
But it's cool to take it in that more unique direction. We will be visiting the Anzati again. There are some major characters that we mentioned in this episode that we will be talking about. Actually, a few of these species have some pretty cool named characters that will likely be highlighted in future episodes. So just keep your ears perked up whenever you hear one of these species names brought up again.
Yeah, for sure.
And then kind of the last species we talk about here, Deveronians, just real quick mention too. I don't know if this was intentional or not. I'm kind of glad they didn't go full devil costume with it and like they came from a planet like Mustafar, Hell Prime or something. But they actually come from what seems to be more of a paradise world. Deveron is like very lush and green and lots of rivers and things. And I do wonder if there's
like the Garden of Eden.
That's what I was thinking is maybe they were going with more like an Eden type scenario, a little more subtle than Hell Prime. And they're just an interesting species overall. Just how like they have a lot of strong sexual dimorphism, even not just physically but in their personalities. They take after very strict personality types within their behavior. Which was just an interesting observation. I guess another kind of throwback too is that they're described as having silver blood. Silver, again, drawing on like this medieval subtext, is often associated with purity. You often have it used in like monster hunting type things, like silver bullets that kill werewolves or like fighting demons, or vampires can't see their reflection in silver mirrors. Yeah. Silver has this like strong association with purity, because silver actually does have antibacterial qualities in real life, actually. So work its way kind of into mythology as well, where like it's a sanctified type metal. So it's just a cool little nod. Yeah. Obviously, we don't have time to get into all the species that might fit in a Halloween. Oh, actually, really quick mention. Okay. Halloween is a holiday in Star Wars.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but I'm going to save that little factoid for a holidays episode.
Okay.
There's not a lot on it. Obviously, it has different meanings in Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of information enough to draw a whole episode out of it, but just thought I'd drop that little factoid here too. But yeah, before we take off here, just wanted to give a few shout outs to some alien species that maybe better fit like the horror type vibe. Like there's a lot of different species in Star Wars.
I think there's a ton of like non-sentient species. So like we are talking more about sentient species.
Yeah, sentient species, and kind of like I said, drawn together by like the classic monster mythos.
Yes.
Your Frankensteins, your werewolf vampires, and then also the fact that 3 of these 4 species are featured in the cantina scene.
Yeah.
Also helps as well. But beyond that, there's definitely other creatures that could fit the bill.
I think like the Sarlacc is sort of like a horror, very horror genre.
Just by its
classic,
existence,
classic one.
Big tentacle monster.
Yeah.
But also the fact that you suffer for like thousands of years while it digests you is kind of like its own element of horror as well.
Yeah. There's also like basically all the species that live on Korriban are all kind of horrors like in that genre, and they're all like force sensitive as well. So you have like the Hissus, which is sort of a lizard like being, and it's actually apparently it's semi-intelligent, so it's like more intelligent than most lower species, but not quite sentient, but it's also force sensitive just by living on the planet. And then you have the Shirax, which are kind of like these large bat-like avian species. And again, they've been like affected by the dark side, and they live in caves. They're bats, obviously. And then one of the another one is the Tukata, which are like the Sith hounds. So those are, again, affected by the dark side.
Yeah.
And then the big one you have is Terentitech, which is almost like a mini Rancor kind of. That's kind of how they look. They hunt. They're used to like hunt Jedi back in the day. And they can like smell the Force, and that's how they find the Jedi, right? Yeah. And they're like very vicious, dangerous beings. So there's a lot of like scary thriller horror, monsters.
The Sith themselves, really,
exactly.
could throw in their culture and their society.
Exactly.
Great opportunity for like a Mummy spin-off type deal if you're doing all the classic monsters.
Yeah, I'm sure there's even more.
Certainly,
but we want to give some honorable mentions.
There were a bunch of arachnid type aliens I wanted to touch on too, but again, they could be their own episodes. There's like the assembler species. One quick honorary mention is a Krykna, and it comes from a really early piece of Ralph McQuarrie art, where it's this like giant spider laying these eggs. And it's a really cool image, and they didn't end up using it for Star Wars from the movies, but they brought back that creature and an encounter with it in the Mandalorian series. So that was kind of a cool shout out from the show to like kind of something that was, and I will give credit to Disney Star Wars as they often go back into like original art and pull elements like white armored Mandalorian Imperial shock troopers, the Krykna, just lots of things that Zeb, his species was the original design for Chewbacca. They just go back and kind of loot McQuarrie's art for inspiration to kind of like tie it back to original Star Wars. But yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's what we had for today. Let us know your guys' favorite spooky species.
I was going to say, before we go, do you have, of the ones we covered in this episode, do you have a preference?
I mean, I feel like the Given were cool, just given the nature, pun there, given the nature of their
species society.
The other ones were, I just felt a little more on the nose about what they were, not that creative, whereas I felt like the Given were a little more creative.
More unique.
Yeah.
Man, I'm a sucker for Wolfman.
Yeah.
The Chevesten, yeah.
Fair enough.
I don't know why.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, guys, let us know what your favorites are. Remember to reach out to us on X, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, and let us know what you think about it. Or just say it in the comments wherever you're listening, YouTube, on Spotify, Apple. Anyways, thanks for listening. We'll check you out next time.